Chinese families, even though we were overseas. That's the way we ate. We were taught as kids, right? So I think the first time I used chopsticks was when, well, I mean, you're taught from young, but then consciously I remember using it in America during Dad's 4 years in Washington, D.C. when we stayed in Maryland. So that's the first time, like around 13, I remember everything was chopsticks. Fork and knife, of course, even though you're in America, right? But you're comfortable. You're comfortable with chopsticks. So now even eating prata, can you imagine? Prata is like, it's an Indian cuisine, but in Singapore it's become staple breakfast stuff for many people, right? Unless you're very health conscious, and you may not eat this. Okay, so you want to talk about this project?
Yeah.
Well, 12 Angry Men, I was just thinking, it's actually a name of a famous 1957 movie, which I saw many years ago. And I was very impressed because I thought, well, if you want to make a movie, this is the way to do it. It's very low cost. There was just one room with 12 men in it. And they were all arguing in a legal case. And it's the outcome of which made this movie famous, because it started out as 11-1. They all thought this boy killed the father, knifed the father to death. But then at the end of the movie, every single one reversed his decision, right? All 11 reversed his decision. They're not judges. They were jury, doing jury duty, right? So I always thought, because in Singapore, I think in Singapore, I'm not sure about Malaysia, or Philippines, but in Singapore they don't allow us to do jury duty because, well, we're not.
Really?
Yeah. So everything's decided by judges. Do you have to do jury?
So no jury.
Oh. You don't have to do jury duty in Philippines?
Oh, we have. I think we have. No. I think so. I'm not.
I mean, anyway, so it's played by this very famous guy called Henry Fonda, who he basically says, well, I don't know if this boy is guilty or not, but I don't think we should just send him to the electric chair without first discussing why do you think. So the first part of the movie is Henry Fonda is defending this boy, and so, well, I don't think you should just send a boy to an electric chair without having a conversation first. And one by one, the people change their position from guilty to not guilty because all the facts of the case comes out, you see. And then at the end, there's this brilliant Malachi 4 and 5 moment where the heart of the father is turned to his own child, and kind of thing, because he one of the jurors has a problem at home, you see. So that's the reason why he wanted to, but then when he forgave the son, right? And you can actually see it on the screen. He's going through something. He breaks down, and then he gives a verdict. His verdict says not guilty. The son is not guilty. So it's very, very touching movie. It's called 12 Angry Men, right? And so I think one of the theaters here in Singapore, they picked up on this and they recreated it. It's going to a show in November in Esplanade.
Wow.
So I don't know whether it's in Chinese or English, but anyway, that's it. You see. So I'm thinking of a canvas with 12 angry men because, right, the old Buddha thing, Confucianist Buddhist thinking, is that you should avoid anger. You should avoid greed. You should avoid being deluded, or that people think you're crazy, right? But those three components were what built Singapore. I mean, before they came to the Lord, before the population came to the Lord, what did you have? I mean, imagine you're barefoot, uneducated, cannot speak English. You probably have syphilis or gonorrhea because, I mean, that was the environment in Chinatown by the river in those days, right? You travel, think about the trauma of traveling in those junks, those ships and sampans, and 50-50 chance of making it, right? And arriving here. And then who do you're nothing. You're just looked down on by the, colonial masters or whatever, right? Do you think you're peaceful and contented people and docile, just obedient people? No, we didn't have Christ in those days. We didn't have any restraint. We didn't have the law. We didn't have the biblical word, right? Right? So when Christianity came to these parts, it's like a light, like Newton's, that shaft of light. And the prism showed up all these colors, gospel colors, modalities we call it, right? But back then, of course, we had modalities. We had the 7 modalities, but they were not redeemed. Not yet redeemed. You have to redeem your gift. Your genius has to be redeemed. No?
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
It's not cooked.
It's not cooked.
It's like your roti prata. It's just the dough. You have to redeem the dough. You have to cook it. You have to process it, right?
That's true.
Everything you have to cook it and process. But at that time, what was raw? What was the raw commodity of our people? It was just 3 things. Anger.
You don't have resources, right?
We had greed, and we were crazy people. Why would you get on a boat and travel so far away from home? We were angry because if you look at all the political parties, their logo, very angry logos, right? I think of the People's Action Party, PAP. It's got this lightning strike, right? And then you think of the Workers' Party. It's got this hammer, right? Any party that had like butterfly or orchid, it's not going to be effective.
Yeah, no gentle.
Not in those days, 60, 70 years, 140 years ago. There's nothing gentle about. No, the only gentlemen were the English people, the white people, and all that, very genteel, and having their tea parties and their high tea and all that kind of thing, right? The women folk very well behaved and dressed in lace and satin and having their little cups of tea on the lawn and all that. Yes, that existed 140 years ago among the Victorian English, but not for us. We were literally carrying gunny sacks at the go down. We were rickshaw pullers. we never associated with, we'd never be in a building like this.
While other nation or
Right.
the
We're
developed
about,
one,
what, 500 meters from the National Archives. So the only way to access that world is through recordings.
yung
And that's where the National Archives comes in the picture. Because we don't have first-hand accounts of that period, right? And especially, I mean, way back when, we can see some black and white photos, but we really don't know the mindset of the people back then, right? Unless it was recorded in an audio format, which is what, of course, now it's a video format. Like we're using DJI and we're using all these technology to record, right? And you're using paints and acrylics and oils
Yes,
and whatever not, you know, on the canvas to paint these 12 angry men, right? So everybody was angry back then. Everybody was greedy back then. Everybody was deluded back then. Okay, you think about delusion. What do you mean by delusion, right? Well, deluded in what sense? That you had an ideal, you had a vision, and everybody thought you're crazy.
correct.
I mean, if we go back 140 years ago, what's this island rock in the middle of the sea planting that? I mean, you must be deluded. What? I mean, to
And
plant
only
that-
few people understand
Yeah.
that time. Maybe their close friends or even their relatives can understand. I don't know. When they share their vision and see something like this, and they say like, no, I don't believe this. More other friends. Because sometimes for me, like family also is like, no, I know you.
They don't see the way you see, right? So imagine from Penang, right? There's this, in history, there's this Kok family, K-O-K, and then they're the local guides, and somebody must have heard about Singapore, right? I mean, this is before, this is 18th century now. Somebody must have, in Penang, see, but Penang was first, the settlement was settled first, 30 years before Singapore. So we always hear about Sir Stamford Raffles, right? Stamford Raffles going on a boat, and you know, and then planting a flag. That's deluded on a naked island. There's nothing there. It's just plant a flag, British flag, and we're gonna have schools. We're gonna create a brand new world, right? Little did they know, of course, there would be slums and opium addicts and prostitution and places like, you know, Geylang back then, right? And Chinatown and Lavender was all red light district, gazetted, right? So ships, navies would come in, whole boatloads of men, and then once they came back on the boat, they all got sick with venereal diseases and all sorts of things. So a ship could be stuck here for 1 month, rendered inoperable because all the men went to Kallang and Lavender and Geylang, you know, in this so-called gazetted red light district. That's why they got scared of this. So you plant this flag, you don't think about all the consequences of it, right? So aren't you deluded? In one sense, you're definitely deluded, right? But then from the viewpoint of the pioneer, the settler, the guy who's, you know, breaking through, spearheading, he thinks it's a marvelous adventure with pepper farms and rubber trees and minerals like tin and all the things that were needed for the Industrial Revolution in the 19th century. You needed all these things. And Malaya, including Penang and including all the way down to Singapore, we, you know, could supply the war effort as well, right? But most importantly, is not the tin and the rubber and the pepper, but it's the people. because somehow our ancestors, which is like a Chinese, Malay mix, Indian mix,
yeah.
right, ended up to be able to speak English, right? So a lot of people ask me, oh, how come you don't speak like other Singaporean? I said, no, mine is the original Singaporean. I mean, beware of, substitutes and counterfeits, I said. Mine is the original. But anyway, the point is that our peoples were mixed Peranakan. You had Peranakan who, wrote and spoke in Jawi. You had Indonesian style. You had Peranakans who spoke in, more on the Malay style. And then you have Peranakans like myself. They call them Baba, right? Bibi is the Baba and Bibi, right? So you have a certain kind of dress, right? A certain kind of material cloth, like this one here. This is Indonesian style batik, right? Which I got from Bali, right?
It's a weed.
It's a weave and it's a design, but where did it come from? It's ancient sarongs and sarong. For the women, they had the kabayas,
Kabaya.
like the Christine in the Nyonya Christine right? So typically multilingual. You can speak Hokkien, you can speak Hakka, you can speak Cantonese. Like my eating habits, for example, although my mother's Hokkien, my father's Hakka, when I have my dinners, I love to have soup. Where did that come from? Well, that's Cantonese. That's the whole culture. We were brought up by the amache, the servants that were singles in the black and white, the black and white, with the red thing, the hat. They served the Chinese households, right? And so they were all Cantonese. And so when they cook, it's like today, our children will grow up with understanding of what is sinigang, because the Filipinos are cooking in our house. They will understand all this culture, which the Filipino, I mean, right? And likewise, many Filipinos becoming Singaporean eventually. I mean, they marry in or whatever, the professional class, right?
But you cannot be citizen, right? But you can be, what do you call this? A
PR.
PR.
You can become a PR, right? So the architects and nurses and all that, right? They serve and then they intermarry. You're allowed to intermarry, but not at the domestic class, the domestic level, house helper, because they don't want to destroy marriages. Because there are these single girls coming in, or even the married ones, right? You're coming into Singaporean families. You don't want there to be any thing happening. So there are strict rules about that. Any of the domestics who get pregnant, they have to go back, or don't know what's the protocol about that. You see, but it's different. So when you are talking about local, like for example, Chinese Malay mix, for example, for myself, we would consider ourselves as, eating our prata, roti prata for breakfast with chopsticks, right?
Yeah.
I'll go and get some more.
Yes.
Top up some more.